Well, hello everyone. So today we are doing the FreeCodecamp product landing page project. For this project, we have on the screen right now the sample what we have to achieve. So it's a basic landing page for trombones. So I haven't still decided what mine is going to be, but I have tried to replicate the same structure. So for that sake, I'm working on Visual Studio Code, not actually on CodePen, using live server extension to deploy. And right now, what I have is this. Now this isn't all that great, and it's just a random video here. But this is a start, yeah. It's the start. Now I have been really struggling to get to this point. So I want to recap what I have been doing so far just to get this. In fact, I would like to start from scratch to do it. So let's do just that. I'm going to jump over Visual Studio. So now we have it. I'm using SAS for a bit of faster and cleaner CSS. Nothing special really. And I want a file basic, no, landing page, HTML. On today's this page, we are going to start from 0. This is what we have right now. Let's also create landing.scss. Let's go with that, and let's set up the first part. So I don't want this, I want this. And before we actually move, so the strategy for get to the point where we are is basically step 1, define some markup, and then try to style it to get what we want. So it's important to have the boilerplate, the doc type specification, header and such. So let's set here our new style sheet. So get link. Let's go with that. href. And it's going to be in CSS. It's going to be called landing.css as it is auto-generated by the live compiler in Visual Studio for SAS. So this seems to be alright. Now we want the content. So as you can see in the original page, what we have is a hero call to action section, well, or header, of course. Header call of action, then some kind of list specifying features, a video, and some plans. Finally, the footer. So you have these components basically in a quick inside our body. What we expect to find is the following: header. We also want to have, this is as a comment, we want a header. We want also a hero call to action. We want a features list, a video, a demo video, and lastly we want, as you can see right now, we want the plans after the video. So plans or pricing, and we have our footer. On the header on mobile, this will be collapsed. Here is a navbar with a standard navbar so far. So this is our structure. This is what we are aiming for. And what is very standard to do at this point is to have div in here. This div is going to wrap everything. I like to call it main. And in here we are going to have our parts. So header, that's one of the parts that we need. We also are going to need the call to action. This is going to be just a div or a section, maybe, but sure you want. This is going to be our call to action. And this is going to be your header, just that. Main, header, call to action. And under section, this section is going to have the features, and the next section is going to have our demo video. So once we are done with all the markup, under two sections, the last one is actually a footer element. ID footer, nothing special there. And this is the plans. So you see 5 sections, 1 header. This header is going to be fixed top. Footer is not going to be fixed. We don't want that. That's good. Right, so I have this already set up with some actual content in here. Now, I won't be using any classes, so I need to take what's on the div. I'm going to copy all the body over this. Alright? And what this body has is pretty much the same stuff with some boilerplate content. So let's look at how this looks right now. Now, this won't have any CSS because we are not linking to anything. Yeah, we're actually going to link to font awesome, so that we have the icons that I'm calling in the markup. And I believe no, we don't need bootstrap. None of that. Yeah, just use this. Just font awesome and the landing page, which is the landing style sheet, which is for now empty. Let's look what do we have right now in the server. So this is the markup that we have right now. It looks good. This is still somewhat different from what we have here. So how do we get from this in the least amount effort? Now, the first consideration is that this page uses mostly just flex layout, flexbox. So why do I know that? Well, I don't know. I checked it in the freecodecamp and that's the result that I got. So it's not something that you can just wild guess, right? You have to have some proof. You have to check. And I found out that most of these materials have flexbox being used for the parent container. So this grid is display flex and stuff. So the upper containers apparently aren't flex. Just some parts are flex. For example, this container is flex at the upper level, but also at the smaller levels we have also flex. So we have a lot of flex displays, flexbox usage. We also have flex in this part. So what you will have to ask yourself is, does this make sense to work as a grid? Because that's your other option. Either is flexbox layout or grid. Now, why will this be a grid? We only have one column. So one column don't really need a grid. It's true that this might be modeled. This might be rendered as a grid. That's a point, indeed. We have one column here, another column here. But for the sake of consistency, we might, like everything we can do with flex layout, we can do it with grid layout. It's only a point of what is less painful. And sometimes it will be less painful to use a stick with one style, with one layout across a website. It's not like you cannot merge them, but if you are just starting, just go with the basics. Flex layout is really powerful, so we don't have to worry too much about it. So right now our landing page is looking like this, and we know that we want to use flex layout. Good stuff. So how do we start? What is going to be flex and what is not going to be flex? Well, that's something that took me quite a while to figure out. We can tell that we want this stuff, the icon and the text, to be in the same row, right? To get this in the same row, we want to put the upper container of the text and the icon, so the unordered list item or element, we want that unordered list element to have the quality of flex, right? Because that is going to put in the same row by default, this content that you see on the screen right now. And if we put it for UL in general, it's going to propagate to these other two elements. So that's something that we can start off. We can say that the UL, jump to Visual Studio. So we want the UL in general to be display flex. By doing this, we already are making some progress. Now, why isn't it working like that? I'm not watching SAS in here in Visual Studio. Now I'm watching it. Okay, small problem though. By making it flex, what I'm actually doing is discrete elements to go like that, and that's not quite what I want. What I actually wanted was the item in itself, the LI element. I want those elements to be like this. So now we have them on the same row, but we don't have them at the same level. They might be in the same row, not at the same level. So let's fix that. For that, since this is the regular flexbox, we just need to do align items center. Now they are looking at the same level, but they are still a bit weird. The icon is way too close, way too small. I was using for that certain property. I'm just gonna copy it real quick. So I want the icons to be a bit bigger. I already have this in the markup. As you can see from here, the icons in here have the icon in medium class that I create myself. Just increasing the font size as this is given by Font Awesome. This is provided by them, and we want some padding, right? We probably want to do the following. Take this stuff here, the cart element, and we want to give the cart element some padding by the left. I believe that's what we want. So this is good, not perfect. It's good enough. We want it to be applied to the LI element. So let's apply to the LA element. Not actually. I believe this is not what we want. Let's just check real quick. And yes. No, certainly it's not what we want. Sadly, it isn't. The cart is what we want to modify. Unfortunately, I cannot apply it from here to every single one. So let's take the card class, which I have previously assigned to the components that are wrapping the titles here in the website. The components wrapping the title and the text, they are wrapped in the class of in a div with the class card. All right, so that's looking good. Now let's take this. So card elements should have some padding by the left or margin, whatever you want. It doesn't really matter that much. I guess padding should do fine. Padding left. We're going to give it 1 rem, I suppose. Now how is it looking? So 1 rem is looking better. I believe 2 rem might be a better number. Is it a better number? Yeah, it looks better. We have some good space in here. Now, it doesn't look centered, so we want to fix that. So how do we fix the centering here? Well, since these li elements are like all this content, if I call justify content in here and set to center, I believe that's what we want to do. So justify content works horizontally. Is it what we want? Yes, it is what we want. Because it is applying to all these elements, right? And these elements are the ones that actually need to be centered. I could have applied to the UL outside. I believe that's possible. And I will get the same result. Let's check just real quick if I can get the same result. So I need display flex in here and justify content. Right, so that gives us not quite the same. Right, that's not really what I want. I think it might be fixed if I change the flex direction to column. But if I change the flex direction, now justify content is going to affect vertically, and we want align content to give us our horizontal center. This might be counterintuitive by the beginning, but that's just how it works. So now we have it centered. It works. It gives us the same result, right? But it forces us to choose flex direction column. Now that's not the end of the world. It can work. In fact, in the previous design that I had gotten, so I had the ULs to set to columns, so I have basically the same stuff. I had this exact stuff. I could have just worked on the li elements. That might have been less painful. I didn't really have a strong reason to work on the UL, so you can choose whichever you want. Either just to justify content center here, or to work with these other 3 rules. It might seem way simpler to just work with these rules because level of specificity, right? So that's that, and now we have something that's looking similar to what we had previously. It's looking quite similar. There's still some things that are not okay. So the first thing that comes to mind is centering these header elements. How do we do that? The solution I found was actually quite simple. I believe I just took all the H1s. No, that's a lie actually. I defined a text center class and basically use that utility class on every one of the elements that I wanted centered. So the main ones that come to mind are the white chooses that is above the. It's not something that is on the original design. It's a header for the features area. This header is now centered. There is another one, the H1 up here. We want this stuff also to be centered. Now, where is it? So, I don't know why exactly it was working before. So we didn't need to have it here, and it was still centered. Not quite sure why is that. I believe it's because of the flexbox. I believe it's this stuff right here, yeah. This stuff is centering them. That's how it is. What other alternative we have is to add the class here, text centered, or utility class. Now we're going to have text centered here. So this is looking quite similar to this. We are missing the navbar and we are missing some customization on the call to action buttons. What about those? To be honest, I took basically the setup that they have in Bootstrap 4 for buttons. So I could just copy that stuff. This stuff in here and this other stuff. So let me get that and see what happens. So we want the button and we want the input. I am not sure if this is going to be exactly how we want it. May not be. So it doesn't seem all that different. Or tags don't seem to have changed that much. We supposedly increase the font size, but we aren't seeing the effect. There was also something that I added here to modify the email input. Will this be enough? It is not enough. And what we need is going to be the modifications that are applied on the form. So let's get those and see what happens. Now I will explain this in a moment. I'm just checking what do we need. It's seemingly not working. Now that's worrisome. Let's see if the elements are actually propagating or not. So it seems we have something, but they are coming from the user agent, and that's not what we want. This is not updating. This is 100% not updating. Now that's indeed an issue. I cannot truly answer you why. Let's try to open it live server. So my styles aren't okay. They are. They aren't. I don't really get what's wrong here. This wasn't happening before, so I might have to do this part. So we know about the form, input types. It might be because of level of specificity. That could be a reason indeed. Or it might be because I'm missing the hero CTA format. So let's try just going by level of specificity. If this doesn't work, then it's some settings that we need from the hero CTA. It's throwing me an error. I'm not quite sure why. Let me see name and Nox. Alright, so Nox is just some cleanup stuff as far as I remember. Yeah, we don't want that. We don't need that later. We don't need this stuff. And button color is missing. Alright. Need some colors here. And that's great. These are just the primary and secondary colors that I found to work. So now we are getting something similar to what we want. So it might have been the level of specificity. Yeah, it was just in a way too general level of specificity. Now what can we do here? Because right now it is not centered. So remember that this form is a flex container. And in this case it is in row setup. So by just doing justify content center, we should be able to get it fixed now. It's not being fixed. So there are a few possible reasons here. Maybe. Nope, it's not that. Alright. So editing the form itself is not really fixing the problem, because the form is trying to center these elements. When I add justify content and align items, it's affecting the input and the button. It's not affecting the form itself. Maybe if I do something like justify self, I might get center, and it could work if this was actually a display flex. But it's not. So we need to make it a display flex. Now this is troublesome. Let us fix this. So what I did, the solution that I had found before, the form, we have the same properties in here, alright? Yes. So we want this first element to be a column, to be set as a column. Our hero CTA has to have flex direction column. That's going to fix it, because right now it's trying to put everything in the same row. So column get us somewhere. Now that's the parent element, and that parent element has to be justified so that we can have this. Now this will work if we hadn't changed the flex direction, but now that we have changed the flex direction, vertical is horizontal and vice versa. Now we get this. This option is not doing really anything. We don't need it. So we get this. These are the properties that I had found before. Display flex, flex direction column, and this justify center, not really doing anything. I can take it away. From the new one, we want these properties applied to our hero CTA section. Doing that gets us to the point where we have in one same row the icons. If we don't want them to be in one same row, as with the original version of the landing page, which you can see here, they had it in 3 rows and they had it separated. You can get that same result. I don't quite like it that much. I had prepared a class just for that. I don't have it in here right now. It's on the another setup. But basically, I think it can be just copied in here. We can just do this. I believe we can just do this. So if I do this, form vertical, and apply form vertical to this port, I believe. Yeah, it's a form, so it's form vertical. Applying this and saving the SAS file. Now we get the same result. Now let's begin to explain all of this stuff, alright? So we have recreated it. We are missing the top navbar, you could call it, but overall we have the same design. Of course, if I remove the form vertical in here, I'm going to get the same design. Only missing thing is the navbar. So how did we achieve this? Oh, first things first, we divided all of our content in one parent container which has basically everything. Aside the header and footer, of course. Those are not really my concern. I know they exist, but they have special behaviors. Headers in mobile behave like menus, and the footer is always going to stay at the footer. No really custom stuff, at least in this setup. So our main concern is the container. Now, I like to work with the IDs because all of these sections are very well defined by these IDs. We have our how-to video, our plans, our features, and our hero CTA. Let me collapse this to its minimum expression. So as you can see, we have four main aspects. Now, video is super easy. By video, I'm just embedding one YouTube video with the defaults. I really haven't done anything. And you might think, hey, but the container may be customized. No, I'm not using any customization on the container. Customization on the container is not required. Not quite. I am not quite sure I understand why it isn't required. But it is not required, at least for now. Now, you might also notice never mind that. So there is no customization on these two stuffs. We never styled anything regarding main or header. What we styled was the hero CTA and the features. We were styling the features by using the cart, the icon MD, and the UL. So all this stuff, except text center, which is a utility class, all this stuff can be nested in the features tab. That's what I like, the IDs and SAS. So I can take the IDs and place all of this stuff here. So this second section, actually I could call this a section indeed. I could rename these divs to section. I actually should rename them to section. Let's try that. It should be section. Section will be a better name, I believe. Now we have to close them. So let's close the sections. Now it should work just as we had it before. And for features, we have our hero's call to action. Now they are all sections, which is good for CEO, but the behavior is the same. The style is the same. Right, as I said, we have nested in the features section all these styles because that's where they belong. The remaining styles are on hero CTA, so this means that basically everything we have been styling is features and hero CTA. Of course, we are still a bit away from the final setup that we need for this stuff. We need our plans section and our footer section, but we already have this. Oh, let's recap then. So text center is an utility class. It's just aligning stuff. It is able to align buttons as well as the H1 text and such. So in the case that We don't need right now to customize the button because of the properties that the Bootstrap defaults give us. We don't need to customize the button with text center to have the proper position. But before this kind of customization, we will need text center for buttons as well. Right now, buttons is only modifying header H1s, not a big deal. As for the hero CTA section, that's the first section up here. It's quite a simple section, only 3 elements. Now, if you see this section, you have a total of 3 elements, 3 outer elements. And think about what we want to do with these 3 elements. We want them to be stacked vertically. By default, display flex will try to set them in the same row. We don't want that, so we change the flex direction. Changing the flex direction and having this set to flex, notice the container is hero CTA. So we are modifying these 3 outer elements. Not quite these elements, just anything that will carry over will carry to those elements, but what we are modifying mainly is these 3 elements. So by saying these 2 lines, we are saying, hey, I want to stack vertically these 3 elements that are, or all the elements nested in hero CTA. When I say align item center, it means that I want these elements to be vertical, to be horizontally centered. Remember that we have changed the orientation of this, so while align by default works vertically, now it's working horizontally because of this line. It's inverting the axis. Oh, that's great and all. That's all the modification that we do to the hero CTA. So we go deeper. For the H1 element, there is no setup, really just text center. Before any other modifications, if I were to comment out all of this stuff, this is what we will get. What? Not sure this is what I want. It might have not updated. I believe it might. It didn't update. Oh, it has updated. All right, it's this area where we are looking at. So as you can see, most of the customization is only making the buttons look good. Whoa. No, it's all right. So the initial form that we have here, it's setting how wide do we want the buttons of the call to action. If we don't set this, what's going to happen is that a default length is going to be used for the elements inside. I don't know what the value for this width is going to be. And it's not even going to wrap because of that. So like that, it's going to wrap. But this default, the length is set automatically if we don't do this. So let me check that real quick. So like this, we have a default length. Where is this length coming from? It's not something that you can easily guess. It's not the length, the minimal length indeed. Otherwise it will go until this point. So it's not. It's a length that you don't have really any control about it. So I suggest setting a width for your form container. Setting this width will mean that you will control the width of the input and the button, because that's what CSS hierarchy results in. Now I had 40% here, and that was good. Now we don't want wrapping, and I believe okay, we want to have them aligned. What did I do, man? Oh, I believe I understand. So it's not really following me. Alright, because I need this stuff. What did I do? Flex with 40 and noise. Just flex them with 40. You don't want anything else. I believe what's missing is here, this justify content. No? Oh, that's scary. What's wrong here? So if I set the width, is messing up with me. But in the default version, it was working. I believe I know what's going on. Let me just open this for a second. Not this one, this one. So in this one, you see I have the form set in a width of 40. The thing is, because we have flex conditions here, then we get the desired result. Otherwise, we get the same weird result. And so you see some centering, some partial centering right now, and it's because of these align items in here, not because of the justify. It's doing nothing. So let's go back to our width. Now, once we have our width set up, we don't need to do anything else in here. Why not? Well, row is going to place, flex is going to place the children element in a row, and that's what we want. We want our button to be right by the input. At least that's what I want. So as you can see, our input field is in the same row as our button. And that's what we have here. It looks weird. You might wonder, hey, how do I fix this? You might say, I broke something, but Flexbox is not completely defined until you go inside the children and customize them. So this is the moment where we open the input. You can see that input is the email CTA, call to action for the email. And the heart of the solution is actually in here. So let's see in the browser what this is doing. Right now it's looking like that. It's looking pretty big. The width 40, that's applying. It's taking the 40% of the entire width of the viewport, because its parent container has 100%, 40% of the screen. Now, the moment I take away these two parameters, the tier parameter is specifying what width I'm aiming for this component. The first and second parameters are specifying the priority the relative priority with which I have to grow and shrink. Now, I want these two elements to have the same priority. I don't really care about the priorities, to be honest. I just want to hold 65% here, and the other 35 I want it assigned to the button. I'm not certainly sure about the align self. I believe it's not doing anything. It could be wrong. So it's indeed not doing anything. Now let's enable the properties for the button in here. Now, the most important property, as far as I'm concerned, is this flex. Once I have enabled the flex property, I get a setup that's more looking like this one. Now, of course, the button doesn't look quite as good. As you can see, these buttons have quite a lot of padding, a lot of horizontal padding, and some vertical padding. The borders are also customized. Background is customized. Plenty of variables have been customized for the buttons, and that's what we are going to get by doing this. So customize the background, the border, the color of the text. We want it to be white. We want the button to be round. We want to add some padding. We want a default font. And that should be it for the button. I believe that's what I have in the final setup in here. No need to set up width or margin. These properties aren't really needed. So let's save that, and what we get is not exactly what we want. Why? Because this cannot compile. There is an error. The color is necessary for it to compile. Now it's working. So the button is looking way better, indeed. And it actually looks almost like the final version. If I remove this element in here, you can see that it's looking quite similar in terms of size and such. What's missing is the customization for the input. You can see that I have it grayed out. I believe these options aren't really doing anything, align self and such. Not 100% sure. So as we did with the button, we want to customize the input. Now the input is working on flex. This flex doesn't really affect the fact that the two buttons take the same space. You can see they are vertically consistent. The reason why they are vertically consistent is because both of their fonts are set as one REM. Both of the fonts are the same font size and the padding is the same. So we are going to get the same stuff in here. Adding a flex display here, it's just for further personalization of the input box, because Bootstrap allows you to put an icon before. With that, we have actually completed all the customization that we wanted. Now I can add also the stuff for the header. Let me get that fixed. It's up here. All we need are these three things to get the top, the navbar setup. So we are going to be basing ourselves off the main container. The header is going to be related to the main container. So its position is going to be fixed, regular position stuff. This value is important. These two values have to be consistent because our actual content cannot be hidden by our header. As it is going to be fixed, we have to add some padding in the top. Let me show you what I mean by that. Once I have added this, it's actually the same, almost the same page. So I have added this. If I remove the padding in here, notice what happens. So some content is lost. We don't want that. These two properties are really important, height and width, because it's an absolute element. An absolute element will need that. There's just one thing that is kind of weird. The font size is not working as in the same fashion for both of them. So it's possible that I had some font size differences set up, but I cannot really find them. This is set as 2em, and this is set as an h1. With 1.5. This is quite a mystery. Why is it being set up like that? So it might have something to do with the setup. So it doesn't seem like such. I believe I get what the problem is. Since our hero CTA is just a div in here, but we have a section here. If we fix this and make it into a div again, then we're going to get the same results. Now, how can we pass from that? It's not really a problem. Just find our h1 element and tell it that we want to keep the size. So that's 2rem if I'm not wrong. Now we get the same stuff even with using section. We have recreated the same page. There seem to be some differences in the actual content, but they are not major. In fact, it looks slightly more centered and correct in the new version. It likely is because of the fact that we are using section elements rather than divs. Like, this stuff must be modifying it. If we change everything to a div, then what the result that we're going to get is probably not as interesting. So let's change every section tag for a div tag. And after that, let's try. Okay, cool. So now this is how it looks, and this is how this looks. So there is certainly some difference, some horizontal difference from the old one and the new one. Something really minor. So it has to be some padding, some padding. There is no other way around. And the padding is applied to the card, if I'm not wrong. It's not quite just the padding then. Let's see. Features. First element is an UL. Let me dog this for a second. So as far as the UL element, in the features tag, we have exactly the same stuff, except on the list style. I believe that should not be a concern, but it might be having some effect. If I completely remove the style, there are no variations on size. Means it certainly isn't the section, or at least not just the section. Let's check on the li element. So for the li element, we have flex, center, center, and that's it. For the span, we have 2 rem, 900, and 1 online height. 2 rem, whoa, that 2 rem, it is active as well. Features, icon, MD, same stuff, 900, 1, everything is the same. And for the card tag, we have same stuff, except that we are setting slightly different padding for the card up here. That might be the reason. So it should be entire padding. It also has some padding, right? Yeah, that's really what's going on. So if I change this to use the same rule, let's find the card. If we copy this property over to this stuff, card, we're going to get it to look almost the same. Now the difference that you see on vertical difference is something that is being created by the section tags. I believe that's the case. Now it should be the exact same. It is the exact same. So section tags appear to be adding some vertical spacing, maybe a margin or padding. Not something that you will have to really be concerned about. CEO is important enough to not be a concern. So yeah, we got what we wanted. Now from this we have to move on to this, but that's going to be on another video. To add the plans and to add the navbar. Yeah, to style a navbar, in fact. It's going to be also a display flex. Everything, at least for now, is going to be display flex. So we are done, guys. I hope this was of some help. It certainly was for me, so hope this helps you all as well. Have a good day.